Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Saturday, first Saturday of June. I am your host, Sonia. Welcome to the Legal Score. Hope everybody is doing great today. And shout out to Brian B.A. Strilla, the production team behind here. Please subscribe to my page, my podcast, The Legal Score. You can catch our live show there as well as previous shows aired, and not just my show, but a lot of shows that airing on the McGrath Podcast Network. Want to definitely thank them for hosting me, and thank you to all the groups that allow me to share my live stream. All right, so let me just go ahead and tell you guys before I go further. Next week it will be a re-air as on Wednesday and Friday and Saturday of next week. In fact, I will be celebrating my second to the youngest niece graduation from high school. She's graduating with honors and Athlete of the Year from Southwest Guilford High School. So I will not be available. She'll be graduating on next Thursday, but I'm sure you will enjoy the re-air that has been set up. But I want to thank everybody for always supporting the like, share. So come on in, say hello. And this segment of the show is a blend of not only sports news, but also a little bit of legal news, but I'm not an attorney. And so nothing that I say is to be misconstrued as giving or receiving legal advice from me. Now, let's just start out with the big news. I know New York is all afire right now after taking a 2-0 up, I should say, against the San Antonio Spurs. And what a heartbreaker last night specifically was. 1 point, you guys, 105, 104. It was literally a nail biter. The Spurs actually went on a 9-0 route in the fourth quarter to try to overcome the deficit. And they took the lead for the first time in the second half against the New York Knicks. But a crucial penalty by Victor Wembanyama would prove fatal. I literally had to watch the replay. Could not believe that Wemby, in all of his stature of 7 foot tall, bumped into the player there from New York, and it was just a wrap. Jalen Brunson, everybody just, it was just a wrap. And that one penalty allowed Jalen to go to the free throw line. He missed the second shot, made the first one, and it did allow the Spurs about 7 seconds of possession to retrieve the ball back. 7 seconds left in regulation, and they just could not convert. And so now the Spurs are down 0-2 to the New York Knicks, and New York is all ablaze. All the Knicks fans, Spike Lee, his whole crew, they are there. There was a few Knicks fans, in the stadium there in Texas on yesterday. And so this is going to be pivotal for New Yorkers. I'm going to be honest. I normally do root for the team from the East, but y'all New Yorker fans are off the chain. It makes me literally not want to root for y'all. But I should be happy. I mean, you guys have not been there in 3 decades or right at it, 27 years, very long time. And this is a pivotal rematch for you all. So you should be really happy. Excuse me. You should be really happy, to be honest. Now, of course, game 1 was on Wednesday, June 3rd. They got beat by 10, 105-95. Folks are definitely seeing the Knicks belong. And then last night's game, the Spurs did definitely have a chance to win on that last possession. And it was just a perimeter defense put on by New York that was just second to none. So there you have it. Forgot to put my banner up here. This show is dedicated to my great-grandmother. Emma. Her birthday was a couple of days ago this week. So happy birthday to her. And I have an Aunt Sonia. Her birthday is actually today. And so happy birthday to you, Aunt Sonia. If you are watching, know you are definitely grateful and celebratory. I hope you celebrate the entire month. But yeah, so key contributors for the game, of course, De'Aaron Fox, the point guard, Stephon Castle, the Rockdale County, Atlanta suburban, can't even talk today. Starting guard there, Devin Vassell, as well as Julian Champagny, and then, of course, Victor Wembanyama, the center. But key bench contributors for San Antonio were Harrison Barnes, Keldon Johnson, and Dylan Harper. Now, New York, of course, led by Jalen Brunson, and then Mikal Bridges was very contributory, as well as OG Anunoby and Josh Howard with Karl Anthony Towns, who definitely at the end of the game, you saw him look up to the sky in the post comment with Lisa Salters, his post commentary, he definitely talked about his mom, and he felt that his mom was present in that game. Key bench contributors for New York were Miles McBride, Mitchell Robinson, and Jose Alvarado. So Jalen just by himself completely dictated the pace for the New York offense across both of those games, not just yesterday, but also today. He averaged 28.5 points and 8.5 assists. Karl Anthony Towns, of course, provided that secondary by the spacing that was needed to pull Wembanyama out of the paint. And that has been his arch nemesis the entire series. On the Spurs side, Wemby was a defensive terror, racking up 7 crucial big blocks in game 2 alone, alongside 24 points. But that perimeter shot making from Fox and Vassell fell just short in the final seconds of game 2. Now, you got to think about it. Injuries are pivotal this time of year. Everybody's been playing bumped up, bruised up, this, that, and the third because of what we are looking at as far as the time of season it is. And this series, of course, like I told you guys, incredible historic rematch of that 1999 NBA Finals that displayed David Robinson. We saw him in the crowd yesterday, and Tim Duncan, that they annihilated the Knicks back in 99. They swept them up, gentleman's sweep, because they did let them win 4-1 was how they did it. And 8th seeded New York came back just to be there. And Patrick Ewing did not play in that game because he was injured. So little revisionist history there for some of you all who may remember that specific game. But for New York fans, this moment has been a generational wait. I told you guys it's almost 3 decades. So not only that, the last time that New York actually made an NBA Finals appearance before this year was the same exact series. So it's been 27 years, not only just of getting this far into the finals, but just making a appearance as a whole. Heartbreak, rebuilding, anticipation that they had. You guys know about the firing of Tom Thibodeau. And for them just to be here on the big stage is very big. So kudos to Mark Brown and that whole crew, making this 2-0 lead feel like an absolute dream for the Madison Square Garden faithful. Now, if you want to look, about records and things like that, you can check it out. All right, WNBA news. Shifting to the women's game right now. History was made today as the expansion Golden State Valkyries took the court for that highly anticipated regular season matchup against the powerhouse Las Vegas Aces at the Michelob Ultra Arena in Nevada. Now, at the mid-game break, the Aces were holding a 20-13 advantage in that gritty defensive battle. That's been the last time I had an opportunity to check before I started airing live now. Of course, Asia Wilson continues her absolute dominance for the Aces, leading the league in scoring and rebounding early in the 2026 campaign. For the Valkyries, their newly assembled roster, you guys know they're the new team here, is leaning heavily on balanced perimeter ball movement to establish their identity. Now, the Wings are actually managing interior depth concerns with the Dallas Wings, who I'm speaking about, with ongoing player rotations, while the Indiana Fever, not far off, are keeping a close eye on minor back tightness for Caitlin Clark, starting backcourt here to look at their team stability and look at how these teams are actually adding up. Major League Baseball news tonight. We got a lot going on. Top 5 team standings. I ran through those last night. Some of those top team contenders actually fell in this week's series, but the biggest story around the league continues to be the historic pace of the Atlanta Braves offense, which is the threatening single season home run records. However, injuries are testing the depth of several of their contenders. Los Angeles Dodgers have placed 2 key starting pitchers on the 15-day IL due to elbow inflammation, forcing them to rely heavily on their bullpen. Meanwhile, I told you guys about this yesterday. The New York Yankees are carefully monitoring a lingering hamstring strain for their star outfielder. And you guys know Mr. Aaron is out for a little bit, keeping him out of day-to-day games during this week's divisional series against Tampa Bay. Switching over to the National Hockey League, you will see I'm wearing my red for my Canes, Carolina Hurricanes. But it's a Carolina. Hurricanes Stanley Cup Finals is going on right now. From the diamond to the ice, it's a frigid matchup, y'all. This series is tied 1-1. The Vegas Golden Knights, another Vegas team, are going toe-to-toe with Carolina Hurricanes in this Stanley Cup matchup. The series opened at Lenovo Center in North Carolina, and the teams have actually traded heavy blows. Game one, recap with you guys: Golden Knights 5, Carolina Hurricanes 4. So a valiant fight by the Canes, but they fell just short. And they've been really riding the overtime a lot this season, especially in the postseason. Racked up several. They went 9-0 before they finally lost a series in the post here. But Vegas stole home ice advantage early with that high-scoring, explosive offensive performance. But in game two, Canes came back 4-3 over the night. So it's just a one-score differential, one goalie differential. The Canes, of course, roared back in front of their home crowd, tightening up defensively to even the series. Now, the series is now out west, guys. In fact, tonight's matchup will be tipping off, pucking off. I don't know how you say it. It's going to be happening here soon. But anyway, T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas for games 3 and 4. The Canes are going to have to brave a hostile road environment, you know, the home cup advantage, home team advantage, what have you, as both teams vie for control of this series momentum. Stat leaders and injuries with this matchup: Jack Eichel and Jonathan Marchessault from Vegas have been leading the charge offensively, finding soft spots in Carolina's aggressive man-to-man defensive system. You guys know they have been extremely aggressive, and that has been a difference maker in a lot of their matchups. And then Sebastian Aho for the Canes and Martin Nikas have been spectacular, driving the transition game and capitalizing heavily on power play opportunities in game two. Injury report, a little bit of sad news there. Vegas is skating through minor injuries to their bottom six forward line, missing key grit on the forecheck, and Carolina is currently without a top 4 defenseman due to an upper body injury sustained in the Eastern Conference Finals, forcing the younger depth pieces to actually show up, step up, and move into this major pressure cooker minutes, because they've got to show this is where we belong. Rounding out our sports segment here with some NFL news. Definitely a lot of trades this week. You guys already know about the Myles Garrett, AJ Brown, Jared Verse move around that I talked about yesterday, and for a little bit last night on Friday with the fellas. But just to give a brief recap, this Pro Bowler in Jared Verse is, definitely looking to bolster the young quarterback and Shedeur Sanders by going to the Cleveland Browns. And then the Rams are, they're racking up drafts for the next 3 years, 27, 28, and 29, as well as some other people that are going to be moving around. But, nothing really surprises me. Things happen so quickly, you don't really have a chance to catch up on everything. But if you think about it, in the New England Patriots with A.J. Brown going there, it's just really big to think about how he's going to be accentuating that roster as well. And you guys already know about Russell Wilson joining CBS as an affiliate now, an analyst, I should say. He wrapped up an incredible 14-year career, 9-time Pro Bowler, Super Bowl champion. An emotional video has been posted on his social media thanking coaches, teammates, family, and fans from all of the teams that he's been with. 10 legendary seasons, rewriting the record book, because he racked up over 40,000 yards passing. So he's got the NFL record for that right now. And so super excited for Russell and what happens next for him. Now we're going to switch over to the legal segment. I have not had a chance to really watch in depth the ice skating, the track incident with these students. So I'll have that for you once I come back in a couple of weeks about what the verdict, by that time the verdict will be out, everything like that. But that case, I will hold comments for involvement, people who are part of the narrative on that and everything, until I can actually look at it, analyze it for myself, and then get on and talk to you guys. But I do have 2 major legal developments for you guys, and this actually is connected for sports and media. So if you think about it, I've kind of hinted at this a little bit. We know monopolies exist with sports and NIL deals and all of that stuff. But for the first time, the National Labor Relations Board has gotten involved against Student Athletes' Rights Coalition. It's an ongoing multi-state federal appeal regarding whether collegiate student athletes must be legally classified as employees under the Fair Labor Standards Act. Now, this is all because of the recent circuit court splits over revenue sharing, taxes, and direct university compensation contracts. This case is actually moving towards an inevitable Supreme Court showdown. Legal analysts actually note that the arguments heard this week could completely dismantle the current amateurism framework that's going on, forcing universities to directly bargain with player unions over health benefits, salary caps, and intellectual property, which is their name, image, and likeness. So that's going to be pretty big because, this is also rumored why Nick Saban disengaged himself from Alabama, because once the players started getting all this money, it just became less for the game and more for working for the money. And I'm kind of torn on that. I've heard some people say, they should get paid this, that, and the third, but I'm just from the old school where I'm like, where athletes are actually playing because they like to play the sport and they're trying to just display their talents for the NFL. I'm just so confused as to how it has become such a bigger market for the name, image, and likeness. And let's be clear, a lot of those players do not go into the NFL because it's extremely difficult to be chosen for the NFL. It's very, very small, even with the talent. And so a lot of them just kind of bank on those name, image, and likeness deals so they can get paid while they're playing sports. But not only after they play sports, once their college careers are over, they are brand ambassadors for some of those labels. And I do personally know someone that's making a very lucrative career out of just being a brand ambassador. And he is no longer a player and really got drafted, but never saw any action on the field for the NFL. So this is one of those battles that if this goes down to the Supreme Court and they actually stop this at the collegiate level, this could have a domino effect for future players that are coming into the league or that are coming up through college that are trying to establish their name, image, and likeness while they're in college, and they don't necessarily get drafted into the NFL. All right, the second case is the U.S. Supreme Court actually issued a major 8 ruling over the FCC versus AT&T. This was a case about the power of how finances are being with the sports and communications and things of that sort. This is a landmark case from 2024 where the SEC versus Jarsky decision, which restricted agencies from handing down heavy civil financial penalties without a jury trial. Now, major sports broadcasting distributors and telecom giants have challenged the FCC's internal enforcement mechanisms. However, the Supreme Court drew a sharp line, refusing to expand Jarsky. The High Court actually ruled that the FCC's current framework for issuing monetary forfeiture orders contains sufficient administrative safeguards and does not violate constitutional jury guarantees. And this actually protects the regulatory status quo for sports media compliance and licensing oversight. So what does all that mean in short? All these conglomerates that are here vying for broadcasting rights, not just streaming, etc., they are all affected. You guys remember that DirecTV was one of the agencies that I think they probably sent out like this mass thing. If you were a customer of NFL package XYZ, they felt like customers were overcharged. But this lawsuit was massive. It was a massive hit for them. And so this all kind of ties in to limit the amount of verdicts that, judges are able, or courts, I should say, are able to hand down as punitive damages or damages as a whole for these FCC, these companies that are actually using the FCC because they're communicating and they're distributing this sports material. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Legal Score. As you see, we got a lot of new faces on the McGrath Podcast Network. Shout out to all of our new subscribers and our new McGrath Podcast Network family as well. And shout out to each of you on this Saturday. I hope everybody's enjoying their Saturday. All right, so now I'm going to get into a few more legal cases before today wraps up. Let's start out in federal bankruptcy court. Now, this is not something that we all have a high interest in, but you may when it results in Balcalis Almazar, known as Cardi B. Now, if you haven't followed this saga, you know Cardi secured a massive $4 million defamation judgment against blogger Tasha K back in 2022. Well, Tasha K, who is this blogger, she does even have a page on Facebook. She just puts out a lot of celebrity gossip. Sometimes her stuff is true. Maybe the most part is true. But in this case, it was not. And defamation, of course, is trying to tarnish someone's name. I'm giving you guys the layman terms here. So basically, she lost this case against Cardi B. Well, she filed for bankruptcy, you guys, because she's like, there's no way I can afford to pay Cardi B $4 million. So she files for bankruptcy, which led to a complex repayment plan because, you know, bankruptcy does allow you to actually get payment plans on certain things, or you can actually look back and see what happens as far as what can you afford. You either get it wiped out completely, or you actually can get the payments broken up into smaller, more affordable payments, I should say. Well, with this situation, she wanted a payment plan. This is the thing. Like, I guess you really were going to pay $4 million to Cardi B, but the payment plan was so complex, but it was strict. It was non-disparagement agreement. Like, she had to come up with, I'm not going to basically ever talk about her again. And this agreement actually, like I said, is permanently barring her from making any public disparaging comments about Cardi B or her family. Well, the court just drew a massive line in the sand for these two, Tasha K and Cardi B. On May 6th, a federal bankruptcy judge found that Tasha K was in civil contempt for repeatedly violating that exact order with posts and content referencing to Cardi, Offset, and NFL star Stephon Diggs. The court ordered all offending content wiped across YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and X. But this is the thing, y'all. Once you post something, even if you delete it, it's there. Like, I'm so glad I didn't grow up in the age where the internet and social media is as it is now, because the campaign smear would be absolutely real. So you have to think about it from a professional standpoint, from someone who has established their name. The whole thing is the judge didn't just penalize Tasha K, but her own attorney, Chad Van Horn, was hit with severe court sanctions after his legal filings were also found to contain hallucinated citations. So let me tell y'all about this. You know, AI is everywhere. You use it every day. You use it for Siri. You use it for Alexa. You use it for everything, like to get directions, to get information about the weather. It's literally everywhere. And then we have other stuff like ChatGPT, Gemini, all of that stuff. I mean, there's so many out there that it's just everything is almost AI predicated. Well, as much as this attorney has been paid, and he literally went and got hallucinated cases. And that means they're basically fake because he got ChatGPT or whoever, whatever affiliate, to draft these cases related to this contempt action. So none of these cases existed. Let's be clear. The court actually ordered the attorney to personally pay a portion of Cardi B's legal fees and the sanctions that the court imposed, because now Cardi is having to double back, and that's going to cost. If you think about it, the court is actually enforcing this procedural integrity under threat of severe financial penalties. In fact, there's just been cases of this everywhere, and it's just becoming more and more prominent that we get you're overworked. I get it. Trust me. I can only imagine as an attorney, you're taking on a lot of cases, but you have to be able to allocate some of the work because it just becomes a mountain of paperwork, a mountain of things to do. And so you think that these AI assistants, artificial intelligence, are going to assist you, but these are computers generated, computer minded, generated by humans. So they can only provide information that you feed into it. So if you haven't fed into it and you just try to get the answer, it's no telling what the outcome may be. All right, guys. So moving over to a hip hop related. Now, you guys remember the longest case in Georgia history so far, the YSL case involving Jeffrey Young Thug Williams here in Fulton County, right out in Atlanta. Definitely the conclusion of the longest running criminal trial in Georgia history. Case started all the way back in 2022. Goal was just for her to get an absolute home run. The state used Georgia's broad anti-racketeering laws to author and argue that the YSL was not just a record label, but was a violent street gang responsible for multiple homicides. But if you look at how this actually wrapped up, Young Thug himself accepted a complex plea agreement that involved him backloading a lot. Like basically it came down to if he does 10 years probation with no incidents, they will backload the other 30 years that they got. Because he got like 40 years of probation, y'all. Like basically a life sentence. But and he can't be in Atlanta, even though he's from Atlanta. He can't be in none of the suburban areas of metro Atlanta, none of that. So all the counties and all this, that, and the third within, I guess, a 50-mile radius of Atlanta. He can't be there, except he's invited, I think, twice a year to come back and give a free concert to the public. Well, he did one on the courthouse steps of Fulton County. It was very impromptu. It was right after a Falcon game. And the only thing he did was put on his timeline, be here, 136 Pryor Street at 4:00. And so people showed up. It probably was like maybe 40, 50 people out there in the crowd. And he just did a little impromptu rap, and it satisfied the qualification for that. But not only that, you know, he had gun charges, things like that, but he did get a lot of his property back even recently. And he did plead no contest to this racketeering conspiracy. But this thing is just so crazy to think about how this indictment came down from the murder charges that actually started this whole thing. They had several gang members on both sides of the alleged gang of YSL and other gangs that were the YFNs, which involved YF and Lucci, another rapper here in Atlanta. But these cases were dropped after the last defendant, this is recently, decided that he was going to enter an Alfred plea to a lesser charge of aggravated assault. So the state's massive multi-year push actually ended without a single murder conviction, you guys. So for any of the remaining defendants who took their chances with the jury, no convictions on the big murder cases. So I don't know how you would think about that as a taxpayer. For Fulton County residents, which I am one, I feel like it was a huge investment of resources. There were lots of law enforcement having to be involved, lots of the co-defendants, because it started out with 28 original defendants had to be housed outside of Atlanta. And with Jeffrey Young Thug Williams being the prominent rapper he was, it involved massive security in Atlanta when he was transported to court every single day for 2 years, including the voir dire process where the jurors were chosen. And he was housed in Cobb County, having to be housed separately, of course, because of who he was. I mean, just massive finances involved across the board. Now, this January, Judge Paige Reese Whitaker actually ordered Georgia authorities to promptly return all of the seized assets that they had claimed from Young Thug's house, including a Corvette, a Porsche 911, multiple Mercedes Benz, a Lamborghini, and over $149,000 in cash that was at his house, because the state failed to hold a civil forfeiture hearing within the statutory 60-day time limit. So the thing for me is, generally, when people are arrested and assets are seized, if a person dissolves their case by any measure of conviction, which a plea agreement would be, it kind of, in the sense of assets, equates to a guilty verdict. So then the state is entitled to keep whatever they got. But in the case of Jeffrey Williams, he did plea and he is on probation, but the state forgot to set up a sale for these items. They were supposed to have had a civil forfeiture hearing about how they were going to dispose of these assets, and the time expired. I don't know how the time expired when you have so many counsel on this case, that someone had to be aware that this time was ticking. So if you think about it, it's just a stark reminder of no matter how high this profile case was, the court is very strict about adhering to time constraints. And so you just got to think about that from the perspective of the courts. Like, you have to be mindful of all of that. So anyway, let me check a little more news before I get ready to hop off here. I don't have a whole lot to talk to you guys about today. Believe it or not, I just want to make sure, because every time I log off, something happens and I'm like, oh my gosh, that just happened and I just logged off. So I'm just going to check to make sure we don't have any other big news. Actually, do have a little bit of news here. Let's see. This is going to be NFL related. Let's see. Brandon Ayuk has officially posted himself donning a Commander's uniform. Now, we know that Brandon has been issued this misdemeanor warrant charge on an alleged speeding incident from December, and he's kind of like snubbed the nose of the DA by basically posting himself driving fast as well, basically like whatever and who cares. And yeah, that's pretty much it on that. Let me make sure I don't have anything else. Oh, I meant to talk about this last night and I forgot. So, in NFC South related news, Baker Mayfield is nearing the end of his contract, as is Bryce Young. Now, for Panthers fans, we know that the writing's on the wall with Bryce. He's got to show up. He's got to show improve. He's got to really extend himself further than last season to basically go into an actual contract. This is the expiration of his rookie contract. And they're saying, it's likely that the Panthers will possibly, this is just my theory of what I've been reading, be moving past Bryce after this season. Like, if there's not a substantial thing, like, we're okay, yes, we improved this season. Yes, we went to the postseason, but it was because of a anomaly in the NFC South amongst everybody being at the same record. It was just so crazy how we would have to basically bank on the Atlanta Falcons, of all people, taking care of the New Orleans Saints, who we got swept by, to advance. And then let's be clear, there were other NFC teams out there that had the same record as the Panthers that did not move forward because there were teams in their division that had a better record. And let's be clear, at the very last minute, with that 8-9 record, that moved the Panthers below 500, which is crazy because the NFC South has been the topic of discussion for being in the bottom of the barrel for several seasons now. all the way back to when the Panthers went with a 7-8-1 record about 10 years ago. So anyway, Mike Evans has already moved camp. Who would have thought, from Tampa Bay? But Baker Mayfield comes out yesterday and he's like, you know what, guys? I'm a 2-time Pro Bowler. I'm entering the final year of my 3-year contract. He got $100 million out of Tampa, and they're trying to do extension talks. But he said they are nowhere close to what he's seeking. Him and his management team, they're setting a deadline, that training camp deadline, for this deal to be finalized. He's like, first and foremost, regardless, we've built roots here in Tampa. We love the community. We love being here. They've embraced us. This is Baker speaking. And we enjoy being here, and obviously gonna raise kids here. But yeah, contract stuff is happening. It's starting, the talks and whatnot, but not anywhere close to what we were thinking. So he's 31. He says he will not negotiate a new deal if an agreement isn't struck by the start of camp in mid-July, which is about a month away. And he will instead be playing out the final year of his contract. So if Tampa Bay doesn't come up with the money that Baker's looking for by mid-July, when the season starts, everyone will know whether or not Baker Mayfield will continue to be with Tampa Bay or if they will not. He's, of course, saying he would love to have a long-term deal with them, but they know his deadline is as soon as training camp starts, and we're not doing any contract stuff. It's a ball, so it's not up to me when that gets done. So hopefully before that. If not, we're still going to have a good year. Now, he is currently the number 16th highest paid quarterback in the NFL with an average salary of $33.3 million. So he's certainly aiming for a deal that will elevate his pay closer to Daniel Jones. And that's what's shocking to me. Daniel Jones gets all this money. He has not been in no playoffs. $44 million average per year, which is crazy. And Deshaun Watson, go figure, who Baker knows very well from being for the Browns organization. And Deshaun just racked up those people's money, $46 million, and did absolutely nothing. With all the legal stuff he had out the field, he literally just took the Browns to the bank. In 2025, Mayfield's stats were 3,693 yards thrown, 26 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, with a 63.2 completion percentage in 17 starts. And he also rushed for 382 yards and 1 touchdown. Now, let's be clear. Folks know that Tampa has gone down the tubes in the last 2 seasons. So that's going to be predicated upon what they decide with his stats as to now that Mike Evans is gone. It's going to be really big. Chicago Bears, the board of directors have voted on Thursday to go ahead and advance. You guys know they've been trying to move out of Soldier Field for a while, up there off Lakeshore Drive. That stadium is huge. I've actually personally been there. But the board of directors have actually voted on Thursday to advance this stadium development in Hammond, Indiana. So a move out of Illinois. And so this is all but finalized. Now, the Bears have issued a statement saying yesterday the Chicago Bears board of directors met and voted to advance our stadium into the development project into Hammond, Indiana, with the exact site to be selected. We believe a world-class stadium project in Hammond will transform the region, connecting Northwest Indiana to the south side of Chicago, through the loop, and across neighbors and suburbs stretching north of the city. It will bring Chicagoland together and deliver new opportunities to its residents and businesses. Now, Indiana will become home to 2 NFL franchises once this happens: the Colts and now the Bears. And I'm going to be honest, I never would have thought about that. And you guys know how New York Giants and the Jets play in Jersey. But the comments are off the chain about this. People are just thinking, it's compared to the Jets and Giants. Other people are saying Indiana Bears, Chicagoland Bears, Indiana Pandas, comments like things like that. But they are saying Cowboys don't play in Dallas, but they do play in Texas. Let's be clear, same state. 49ers don't play in San Francisco, but they play in California. And so this is just really, really big. It's crazy. Excuse me. It's really crazy because um I personally thought, and I've driven to Chicago before. So going in through Gary, Indiana seemed like it would have been better than going all the way to Hammond, but I digress. I mean, it's really crazy. And I'm wondering how Chicago fans feel, generally speaking. So if you watch this on a recap, let me know how you feel if you're a Chicago fan about them moving to Indiana. Offensive linebacker Jonathan Cooper, you guys, out of Denver, was arrested Thursday night in Colorado as being held on 2 counts of domestic violence and 1 count of criminal mischief. 28 years old, booked into the detention facility at 2:38 a.m. and he's scheduled to go before the judge on yesterday, um, just for first hearings and things like that. But anyway, he's entering his second year of a 4-year, $60 million extension, and he signed that in November of 2024. So it's just a lot going on around the league, guys. A lot of moves, things of that nature. And so, as we always say, things change like with the drop of a dime. Seriously, like no pun intended. But let me make sure I got everything before I hop off of here. Uh, I think I got everything taken care of. So this is pretty much going to be it for today's show. I hope everyone has a great Saturday. Make sure that you guys get an opportunity to check us out. Here we are here 24/7 without the cost of cable. I always say that. I got the big Sunday morning sports show coming up in the morning at 8 a.m. And again, the legal score, excuse me, and Friday with the fellas of next week will all be re-airs as I'll be celebrating my niece's graduation. So congratulations to Pearson. And as I said, I've been pushing Pearson all year, all her fundraisers and things like that. So thank you all for supporting with thoughts, love, and your finances in her, all of her fundraisers in her senior year. And congratulations to you, Pearson, on being your upcoming graduation, being in the top of your class as, excuse me, female athlete of the year for your school, for being homecoming queen, for being Miss Jabberwock with Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and for all the other accomplishments that you've had on the court, in band, in piano, in dance, everything. Super excited and super proud of you. And with that, everybody, I thank everyone for coming on. You all have a blessed day.